Thank you so much, Jan, and I really appreciate you watching out for those questions and helping moderate the session today. Hello, everyone. Again, Jennifer Kluge. I'm the CEO of the Best and Brightest programs and the National Association for Business Resources. I'd love to give you guys just a feel for what we're going to be covering today, and thank you for joining again. So we're going to be talking about, because it's comp and benefits, we do have to talk a lot about statistics and what employers are doing. We're going to be covering some unique best practices. We're going to cover some areas for ingenuity, and these areas are where we see perhaps employers missing the boat on some of the statistical measures that we're tracking. And then we're going to look at our areas of concern. These are the areas where employers are missing the mark, and we need to come up with some creative solutions, and employees are pretty much shouting from the rooftops that they don't like things, and we'll address those as well. So this is a high-level look, and to give you a feel for who's been surveyed, we're going to be sharing the data of 1,600 companies from across the country. There's predominant presence of 10 markets throughout the U.S. And these 1,600 companies, we've surveyed about 250,000 of their employees. So a typical statistical benchmark is you want no less than 300 in your query. 900 is optimum, and we have 1,600 companies represented. So this is really good benchmark data and quality of data. So to just give you a lay of the land, these companies are scored as the best and brightest companies to work for. So their benchmarks are a little different than an average company. So for example, 35% of them pay above market, and a lot of them offer very generous perks and programs, and their engagement scores are off the chart. So 80% plus, high 80s of their employees are engaged. So you hear all these studies that X percent's unengaged. This is really the creme of the creme here, and this is the most elite employers in the nation. Okay, so everybody knows this. These are our benchmarks. These are some of the things that are absolutely required, and if you're not requiring them, I'm assuming everyone does, then you're missing the boat. Vacation, 401k, or a profit sharing, holiday pay, and medical insurance are pretty much mandatory now. Other must-haves, so to speak, most everyone does performance or merit salary increases, life insurance, AD&D coverage. 75%, I was a little surprised by this, 75% offer severance pay, and as the best and brightest company, we would expect that to be higher, so we're working with those folks to increase those scores. And 67% pay for maternity leave. So these are some of the trends and standards. Okay, some more numbers. I warned you that there would be numbers in the beginning. So these companies look at their job classifications and the salary ranges in the job classification. Most of them within 6 to 12 months, they review it most annually. Some are at the 18-month marker, and some are at the 2-year marker. So if you haven't reviewed your job classifications and salary ranges in a while, it might be time to take a peek at that. All right, so bonuses we're going to be covering a lot on bonuses. It's a little misleading, the term bonus, because it's implied it's extra, but it really is now part of expectations, and there's all kinds of different bonuses. Employee incentives are 72%. Discretionary bonuses, 60% of the companies surveyed provide that. Team incentives is on the rise with 44%. So we're going to be later on have a whole section where we're going to be talking about retention bonuses and creative ways that people are compensating their employees around retention. All right, so benefits, dental and vision, a majority of employers offer it. Disability insurance, that includes long-term disability and short-term disability. And then Surprisingly, medical reimbursement accounts aren't as high as they used to be. And that's an underserved benefit, and a lot of employers are starting to push those again. And what goes hand in hand with the medical reimbursement account is the child care account, and those are at 56%. So there's some opportunity in both medical reimbursement and child care reimbursement. Those are where you do the pre-tax dollars that come out of your employees' paychecks, and they can use it towards incidentals that are not paid by the health care coverage or certain child care expenses. So there's some opportunity there. And then this is interesting. This number has also come down over the years. Tuition reimbursements at 45% roughly. And tuition reimbursement, we pretty sure we know why. Tuition reimbursement has been replaced with on-site training or outsourced training or college and university partnerships. So the freedom of saying you can go anywhere you want for any degree of the old days has been replaced with we'll put you through training. It's going to be a significant amount of our budget, but we're going to shape and mold the training and make sure it's a win-win, a win for the company and a win for the employee's career. So that's a little philosophical change. So wellness is always a big deal. It's been trending higher and higher year over year. And fitness memberships or on-site fitness is at 40%. I think that's doubled over the last 3 years, and it's a norm now to provide anything related to fitness. All right. So some of the perks that are now standard, which is exciting because 3 or 4 years ago these were cutting edge. The perks world and the creativity around perks of employers has had a lot of ingenuity in the last couple years. We're excited to see some creative practices. We're going to be sharing some of those with you today. Employee discounts with vendors, that's a big deal, really easy to do. And many of these are very low budget options. Vehicle purchase or lease programs to help your employees with their lease options. Employee assistance services and programs, so the EAPs. Those are pretty much norm now. In the old days, those were a luxury. And concierge services are now pretty much the norm of employers. So other norms that are pretty much standard now, smoking cessation, weight management, dry cleaning services, and massage therapy. I remember when massage therapy was a big deal. And, oh my gosh, you have a masseuse? Now almost everyone has a masseuse or some sort of massage therapy program or holistic wellness. Okay, so other norms now and that are readily acceptable in people's cultures. I want to caution you all to on-site games and activities. You have to make sure that they fit your culture, and you also have to make sure that it's seeded and fostered. For example, are there competitions around it? Are there prizes around the games? Is it part of your culture, or is it sitting there collecting dust? So be very careful with that, but that is the norm. Holistic health activities, anywhere from yoga to meditation to desk, sit in your seat meditation. These are all standard practices. There's one company that I know that starts every meeting with mindfulness. Every team meeting is now some sort of meditation in the first minute of the meeting. That's interesting. That's a new trend. And then on-site fitness classes. So these are all pretty much the norm. All right, so some interesting things that we saw some opportunities for discussion, and I don't know if any of you are offering this. There's an interesting, the data is very interesting around helping people with their finances. Some of the lowest scores from employees is their ability to fund their retirement. And a lot of employers are starting to help employees with budgeting and whatnot. Partnerships with credit unions or banks is starting to be on the rise. Helping employees with budgets, investments, and financial planning is also on the rise. Okay. Another interesting number, this is pretty low. It depends on your industry, and it's probably pretty low because many employers provide either a phone or a laptop or a computer as part of their overall company materials that are provided to employees. But do you also help with them for their family needs for computers or technology or what have you? So there's some opportunities there as well. All right, so before we transition to best practices, I'm just going to pause. I just threw a ton of data at you. Any questions so far, Jan?
Jennifer, what about the games? When you said make sure they're part of culture, can you give us an example of how that would work?
Sure. So there is a mortgage company, and their CEO is a Big Ten basketball player. So they installed a basketball court in their building, and the CEO shoots hoops with his employees. And it's encouraged for people to take a little break and play basketball on site. So that is a really good example where it fits the culture. Now, if I were to put a basketball court in our building and I didn't have some sort of competition or activity that I'm pushing out, then it's a waste. So a lot of companies, what they are doing is they're creating committees, fun committees or games committees, and they're getting a good representation of the different departments within their company. Manufacturing's different, of course, than an office environment, and they're getting employees feedback and buy-in, and it's actually implemented by the employees. But if the C-suite's not driving it, usually these things are just looked at as what a waste of time and they're trying too hard. So you have to be very careful to make sure that employees are engaged in the activity, that it's their ideas, and that you're supporting it. Is that good, Jim? Anything else?
Great points. Thank you.
All right. So moving on to best practices. This is always fun. I love sharing some of the employer practices related to compensation and benefits. So Puma's out of Boston. They have a very interesting program for perks, and perks qualify under benefits, so compensation, benefits, and perks. They have in their office several offices that are parent-child suites, and anybody can use them at any time, and you're encouraged to bring your child to work. Whether it's in the summer or for whatever reason they had a half day, bring them in. They can study or do whatever they need on their side of the office, and you can do what you need on your side. So it's very, very interesting. They also have lactation and wellness rooms. The wellness rooms, you can do yoga, you can do mindfulness. It's a kind of a quiet, relaxed room. I don't know if they have napping there, but many companies do. And then they have on-site manicurists, massages, iced coffee, and kombucha teas on tap. So that was interesting. And it was specific to their culture. And I want to make sure you all know these are just examples, and these are high-level examples. Next year in 2018, we're going to be doing deep dives with these companies to go in depth on how they're doing this and what the value and the price points are and what the return on investment was for all these different benefits and trends. Okay, Mondo. Mondo's out of New York. They also are a winner in San Francisco. So they have 3 level benefits. Their standard benefits, those are like the medical, dental, all the typical benefits. Their second tier are perks. And then their third tier is what they call luxury benefits. They reimburse their employees for any babysitting or house cleaning that's necessary. And their whole philosophy is you work hard enough with us. We don't want you to have to worry about all the things that stress you out at home, and we'll take care of that for you. So it's a really interesting mindset. Not for everybody, but pretty interesting. Okay, what I like about this next example is it's a pipeline. It's a talent pipeline example, but it's also a really good model for compensation. Framework is communications out of Chicago. They recruit. They have a partnership with the military, and they also co-invest with the Illinois Department of Veteran Affairs to train candidates over a 2-year period. And at that 2-year period, they double their salary. So they bring folks in from the military, they train them, they have a partnership with the Illinois Department of Veteran Affairs, and when they pass the training, they're guaranteed a double their income. And it's a great onboarding, it's a great creative execution for talent, but it also helps with comp and benefits for a unique market segment. Okay, so Parker's out of Grand Rapids. They are a motion control technology firm, and what they do for their employees is they offer on-site car maintenance. So oil changes, car cleaning detail, windshield repair, tire rotations, and other standard repairs. And in the detailing, they can really clean the car, and it saves time and provides convenience for their employees. Pretty cool. It comes to them. And there are a lot of trends around time. If you can save your employees time in anything in their life, that seems to be where all the creative perks are coming from. ABIS is out of Houston. ABIS has some interesting compensation programs. Their CEO has spoke at many of our events. And they're a tech firm out of Houston. They are very involved with their employees and driving culture. So they pay for a company-wide weekend getaway for employees and their significant other. It happens annually, and it includes games and activities and extravagant gifts and shopping sprees to prepare for the party. So that's one of their ways that, and it's all done through payroll, all the gifts and everything is all legit. And we've had that question before as well, how do they fund this? Everything is done through payroll. So if somebody is given a computer, the value of the computer is given to the CPA, and they let them make sure that it's handled properly through compensation. Okay, Bell Brands. So these cute little red cheeses. Bell Brands does Baby Bell. You've seen their cheeses in the grocery store. My kids love them because you unwrap the wax on them, and they're a lot of fun, and they taste delicious. They're out of Chicago. This is very creative. They offer a holiday, an extra holiday, paid day off, and they actually call it a holiday, to employees who have their annual physical. So it has to be the employee and their spouse or significant other. If they have an annual physical, they get a holiday, and they get 2 months where they do not have to do their portion of the medical premium. So it's a nice way to track wellness. It helps make sure everyone's healthy, and it rewards employees for really good wellness behaviors, and they get some nice compensation from it as well. All right, so JobVice out of San Francisco. In some of the larger markets, parking is an issue, and many people in their offer or in their compensation package, parking is included in the compensation. JobVite does something unique, and I don't know if you've seen any of these parking spots. Like, for example, Chicago, parking spot can go anywhere from $60,000 to $120,000 a year just to get a parking spot. So what JobVite does, instead of paying for a parking space, they offer free Uber to and from work. And they allow their employees to have flexible work locations to address this high. So it's a win for the company because there's high costs associated with parking. A more affordable solution is Uber, and it provides more flexibility for the employee. Okay. All right. So out of Detroit is Honigman, Miller, Schwartz, and Cohn. They're a law firm, and they offered their employees up to $50,000 in interest-free loans to use exclusively towards the down payment of buying a home. So that is really interesting. It's kind of old school if you really think about it, and those are interest-free. I don't know the exact details of what the arrangement and payback look like, but that is provided to their employees. All right. So Total Quality Logistics, they are out of Houston. Now they're a larger firm. They have dedicated employees that all their job to do is to provide perks and services for their employees. So these dedicated team members bring in services such as dry cleaning pickup and delivery. They'll get their groceries for them. So it's an in-house concierge service that is paid by the company. Usually those are outsourced TQL. They have actual staff members that do that for you. All right. So Jan, I'm going to take a little break here, see if there's any questions and what I can answer for everybody.
We do have a question. It's about Bell Brands. The listener wants to know, how does Bell track who completes their annual physicals?
So they do get a note from the physician that they had their physical, and that it's just a note from the doctor. It's submitted to HR. HR puts it down and logs it, and then executes the benefits of the 2-month free premium and the extra holiday.
And somebody else wants to know, what kind of paperwork does that entail?
Not much paperwork. It's simply the doctor's note, and then the HR team just keeps track of who's done it and who hasn't done it, and then they make sure that it's executed through payroll.
Interesting.
It's actually a lot easier than it sounds.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
That's it for now.
Any other questions?
Doesn't look like it right now. Thanks.
Okay. So creative bonuses and sabbaticals. All right. So here we go. So we have seen quite an upswing in retention bonuses, creative bonuses, paid sabbaticals, and this is directly related to some of the generational issues of work shortage, talent shortage, and skills gap. So let's go through some of these examples. I'd be happy to answer any questions as well on these. All right. So out of Ohio, ERP, the employees there can pick what their compensation looks like. So they can either choose, and it's completely transparent. The salary structure is completely transparent. And for this particular job, you can either have it as part of your compensation or part of your benefits. So it's kind of like lack of a better word, you're going into a cafeteria. You know you have $10 to spend. $5 of it can be on benefits, and $5 can be on payroll, or it could be $8 on salary and $2 on benefits. So it's a very open model. Everybody knows what everyone's making. Not for everybody, but an interesting best practice. So Top Spot is out of Houston. They have very generous programs. So let's run through what they do. Everybody, when they are offered employment, everyone on their team gets 15 days of vacation in their first year. That's pretty high. At 5 years, when you hit the 5-year marker, then it jumps up to 30 days of vacation as a kind of a reward for retention. And then on their 7th anniversary and every year thereafter, employees receive $2,500 towards vacation. So they're really encouraged to take vacation, and the company helps pay for some of that vacation. Again, all run through payroll. Okay, FONA. FONA has been an elite winner in Chicago. Elite winner means that they are in the top 10% of winners in Chicago year over year. They were the overall winner for several years. And they have so many great things that they do. This is just one example related to compensation benefits. They made it fun. They have a 10-year, 20-year, and 25-year program, and it's all in the theme of 10, 20, and 25. So at 10 years, employees receive a bonus of 10% of their gross pay. That's their anniversary bonus or the retention bonus, plus an additional week vacation. At 20 years, they get a $20,000 bonus and another week of vacation. And then at 25 years, it's 25% a base pay bonus plus a 25-day paid sabbatical. And they are a flavor manufacturer. So they have chemists, they have manufacturing employees, they have corporate office employees. So it's across the board. It's pretty cool. Okay. Brightest Electric is out of Grand Rapids. This model is not for everybody, but for those of you who do have employee-owned companies, this company has put a model in place where 30% of their income is in the form of bonuses based off of company performance. So they have different formulas in place based off of teams that are performing well. Here's the gross revenue. Here's the increase in gross revenue. And here's how we're going to break it down by which teams deserve the most. And it's based on growth and profitability. Not for everybody. Not everyone can do that model. All right, Clinical Resources. Clinical Resources is out of Atlanta. So they have an annual retreat, which is usually a high-end vacation. They've done cruises. They've done exotic locations, and it's for all employees. And then they also provide a $10,000 bonus. They also have a retention bonus after 5 years of employment. And as you can see, the trend is 5-year marker, 7-year marker, 10-year marker, 20-year marker, and 25-year marker for these examples that we're providing. Lone Star is in Dallas. I love this example because it's a creative bonus and is tied to culture. So what they do is they have, at the discretion of employees, they have what they call catch-em bonuses ranging from $500 to $5,000. And an employee can nominate someone for a catch-em bonus, anybody in the company, and those are rewarded and in anywhere from $500 to $5,000 for catching people living up to their code of ethics or their culture. And they have a very highly defined belief system and ethical structure system. And when they're caught doing something to that, they're rewarded. It's not uncommon for employees to get at least 2 per year. The supervisors and HR team manage what is worthy and what the dollar amount of worthiness is. And what the cool part of that is it's a bonus, but it's also a recognition program, and it helps drive culture. So that's a pretty cool example. All right. Anything, Jan, on your end as we go to the next section?
The only thing I want to tell everyone is that we are taping the presentation, and it'll be posted on the website. So looks like everybody's very interested in all of these programming ideas, and I think they're all taking notes.
And I believe the slides are included in the recording,
absolutely.
Correct? Great.
Absolutely.
Good. Okay. All right, so let's shift gears and go to creative time off best practices. All right, so we all know that CPA firms, they're busy. They have tax season, and then they have personal tax season, corporate tax season, adjusted fiscal year tax season. They're pretty busy year-round. So what this unique CPA firm did out of Houston is they said, okay, you all manage your own time as long as you're working 130 hours a month. So if you were to use a formula to translate that to a typical week, that might be 30 hours per week. So if somebody's crunching on deadline and they want to work long hours in one week and take it easy the next week, they have the freedom to do that as long as clients are being serviced and as long as work is getting done. They also have something very cool there, just as a sidebar. They have free lunch options. So they have a fully stocked kitchen, and what we have seen, and I haven't mentioned it, this is actually in a different presentation we do, you can never go wrong with food. If you offer food, free food to your employees, whether it's a snack, we've seen snack carts going around the office, food contests, the C-suite serving food to you in any way. Food is always good, and it's always a low-budget item as well. All right. HRQ is out of Dallas. Many of the companies surveyed have this. Literally, there's hundreds of examples of this, but we thought we'd use there. They have queue time based off of their name. You can call yours whatever you like, where employees can take the time that they need. They do track it as long as there's the clients are being serviced and the work is getting done. They can take whatever they need. There's no set number of vacations or personal days or sick days. They can self-manage that. But HR does track it. And in addition, they also offer a month-long paid sabbatical to all employees after their 5th year of service. Okay. So Owen Ames Kimball, they are a little different example. They have an honor system, and they do not track time off. So any attorneys out there are probably not excited about this, because this is tough, because you do need to define for anybody that has unlimited paid time off or use your judgment time off. You do need to put a provision in your policies that says what a medical leave is, the definition of a medical leave, and whether it's paid or unpaid, and how many days after, and what those rules are, because that's the only sticky point with these unlimited paid time off, is when there's a disability or a leave from work or an unpaid sabbatical per the employee's request. So you should check with your attorney on the best way to implement something like this. But Owen Ames Kimball, they're completely open. They don't track anything. They use the honor system, and they say they trust their employees' judgment. Okay, Hoover Ferguson is a bulk container company. They're out of Texas. They offer shortened work weeks. It's an option for employees. They can work 4 10-hour days to give employees a 3-day weekend, or they can work a different regular schedule. This is very interesting. Employees are given a lot of choices, and I think a majority of their employees are taking this offer to work extended hours, and they're a manufacturing environment. Okay, CBiz. When they took this photo, it must have been Red Sweater Day. CBiz is out of Cleveland. What they do, and many best and brightest companies do this as well that have been surveyed, they offer employees the choice of what their work schedule is. They might do a compressed work week, similar to the example we just gave. They can do flex time, They can do telecommuting. They can do partial workload. They can do part-time. They can do shared job or a hybrid of those options, and those are negotiated at hiring. And if they want to make a change, those are discussed with the HR team and implemented, and just given a lot of choice and freedom. Okay, so I'm going to go into the areas of Ingenuity next, and then we'll come back to some questions. So these are the areas. Now we're looking at some of the employee data. We surveyed, again, about 250,000 employees of these companies. We surveyed the companies and well as their employees. And these were some of the things that kind of popped out in the data that we said, what else can we do? Why is this such a low number, or where are the opportunities for Ingenuity? The first is travel bonuses. If you have a lot of travel for some of your employees or all of your employees or what have you, that's hard. It's hard on their family. It's hard on them. And only 7% have thought about doing travel bonuses. So you might want to think about travel bonuses as something that you want to investigate. Again, a lot of companies put committees together on these new perks and benefits. And it's vetted out by employees, it's approved by corporate officers, and it's encouraged by C-suite. So it has to be all levels supporting any endeavor like this. So something interesting that we can't figure out is outplacement assistance. Why is that so low? If you're a elite employer or a best and brightest company, why is outplacement assistance so low? You treat them well when they come in. You treat them well while they're there. If they're terminated for any reason, why don't you treat them well on the way out? So we're challenging everyone to think about this. And the reason why this is so important is the employees that are remaining, whether it's for cause or not for cause or whatever, the employees that are remaining are watching. And if you don't treat employees well on the way out, it does affect your culture. And that's something to be mindful of. Okay. Again, this isn't for everyone. 9% of the 1,600 that we surveyed have employee stock ownership. I'm pretty sure those are non-voting stock, but it helps allow employees to increase the profitability of the company and have some ownership at the same time. So early retirement is going to be an issue. We have the baby boomers retiring. We have a shortage in talent. So there's a lot of variables going on here. We have a very large millennial base growing and entering the workforce, or they're in the workforce. We have a smaller Gen X group, and we have this huge, we still have the silent generation working, and we have this huge baby boomer population that is thinking about retirement. What a lot of companies are doing is they have early retirement provisions at 8.6% of the companies, but there's some really interesting best practices about retirement. So the trend is not to have the retirees leave early, but how long can you keep them, because there's such a need for talent and knowledge. So there's an engineering firm that does something really interesting that I want to share with you all. So this engineering firm, they have the folks close to retirement. They sit down with them and they work on customized retirement plans. So what their preference is that the employee goes from full-time to part-time status, and then from part-time status, they go to a consultant with the company. So if there's a project that pops up where they're needed, they're called back in to help with the project. Or if there's a client that was used to working with them and there's a problem on the case or what have you, they don't lose the knowledge, and they're able to transfer that knowledge to the folks working on it. And then they go to an ambassador status. So the retirees do their recruitment on campus. They represent them at career fairs, but they also represent them at exhibitors. They work the tables for expos, and it's a nice model to retain the talent, and it's a nice model for those that don't want to just go from working full-time to not working at all. So that's something to think about in offering as well. Something else that we see is going to be changing. There's very little going on with elder care, on-site daycare or daycare partnerships, and child care. We just did an event where we did an entire panel on taking care of a family member that has needs, and it was a very interesting dialogue. Whether it's elder care, it's quite a stress on the employee. It might be a child with special needs. It might be a loved one with cancer. We really need to put our thinking caps in this area. What can we do either officially or unofficially within our policies and procedures to help our employees with these life challenges? Because if they have a sick loved one at home, are they fully present when they're on the job? Or are they distracted by what is going on at the hospital or what's going on at the facility that they're at? So this is important now more than ever to address these issues, and we're behind, based off of this data, we're behind. And these are the elite employers. So imagine if you're not a best and brightest company and there's not these kind of services. So we really need to think about it. The other thing that we thought was quite low is adoption reimbursement. Depending on the market and segment and depending on where you are, where your offices are, people are having children later. Some are struggling having children, and being able to provide adoption reimbursement and adoption leave is something that we think can be improved upon. Employer-assisted housing is only 3%. Sometimes it's mandated depending on the work visas that are out there. Sometimes if you're trying to recruit new employees from different cities or relocating people, this is something that should be looked at as well. So we thought that was pretty low. So before I get to the areas of concern, I'm going to throw back to Jan. Jan, where are we at, and are there any additional questions?
Jennifer, yeah. One of the questions is, when you talk about these benefits, and in light of totally different kinds of workplaces, are the benefits being offered the same for exempt and non-exempt employees?
Mostly yes is the answer to that, because it's part of the culture. Some do, though, have certain provision for maybe corporate office employees versus on-the-line employees. But, yeah, it's offered to everybody.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how are companies calculating the ROI on these plans?
So, it depends on what we're talking about, but the ROI, sometimes they're intrinsic, sometimes they're not intrinsic. I think what they're looking at more is the cost of hiring. So if we have an employee and we're paying for a 1-month sabbatical at the 5-year to keep them for another 3 to 5 years, how much would it cost us to replace that person? So it's more calculated in an opportunity loss versus adding the benefit on. So what is the risk of not doing it? And each company is a little different.
I can imagine from a starting point, our retention is low. This is what we're going to implement, and let's track it.
Right. And then the other thing there too is what we'll do is we'll bring in some speakers in 2018 that will share the numbers of these programs in detail and what their financial benefit has been.
Very cool.
But they are tracking it, and each one's tracked a little differently. All right, so let's go to the areas of concern. There has to be some low-scoring areas. Let's go to, well, this is based off of employee feedback. So I'll read these stats to you. Compared to other places I might work, I'm paid fairly. 76% said yes, they're paid fairly. And this is interesting because these are some of the above market compensation models. So there's always room to communicate to employees about the value of what they're getting and perceptions. And no matter what we do and how we do it, compensation and benefits has been the lowest scoring area of all the areas that we score. So there's much work that needs to be done with communication of value of benefits, and knowing that if you're paying above market, you need to tell your employees you are. They don't know. And kind of bragging, and usually employers stay away from this for legal purposes, but offering a little bit more transparency in the workplace would be highly encouraged, because then you have more value. Do they know what percentage of the overall budget goes towards them, towards employee benefits and perks and everything that's done? I think that's an important to share. Here's another quote. My health care and insurance benefits meet my family needs. That's at 78%. I believe the way this company promotes and transfers employees is fair is 72%. So these are some of the lowest scoring areas. I feel I can save enough for the future through our retirement plans. This is 69%. And the lowest score of the 250,000 employees surveyed is I'm satisfied with the way pay increases are administered at 64%. So let's talk about that a little bit. So it's not what they're paid, even though they think that they might be able to get more elsewhere. It's not what they're paid. It's how we increase their pay. So is it a traditional performance review? Is it a traditional check the box here? Is it a personal development plan? Both the employees and the supervisors do not like doing performance reviews. They stress about it. They don't like it. Stats has showed that it's subjective. So what can we do to fix this? So we're challenging the business community to come up with some new creative executions. A lot of people have gotten away from performance reviews and are going to an instant feedback model. And if there's something going on, they communicate it. Again, attorneys don't like that, but it's the way that people are going. Retirement planning is the second lowest score. What companies are doing to address this, and I mentioned this before, they're bringing experts in. They're bringing financial advisors to do lunch and learns. They're helping their employees with budgeting. They're helping their employees with financial investments, planning for their retirement. And they're doing that by educating them, but not providing the service itself. So again, maybe possibly bringing a credit union in, a local credit union in, bringing in a financial advisor, and really educating their employees on how to leverage their 401k, and as well as save for their retirement. So I always like to focus on something positive at the end of our presentation, and I just want to share a little bit about with one of my favorite companies. It's an engineering firm, Cascade Engineering. They're actually a manufacturer. And I cannot say enough good things about this company. They're a B corporation, and for those of you that do not know what a B corporation is, it's a relatively new corporate designation where your primary responsibility is not to your shareholders or owners. Your primary responsibility is to the local community as a whole. So you can go to your shareholders and say, we didn't give you this increase in profitability because it would have hurt the local community, and the decisions are made off of the goodwill and the betterment of the community. So what they did, and the slide's a little hard to read, but they said, we're going to tackle on some world problems. So they identified racism, poverty, pollution, corporate greed, waste, clean water, and crime. They wanted to tackle those issues. And let me give you some examples of, so for example, with waste, they were determined to be a sustainable business, and they are now a zero waste entity in their manufacture. They do, one of their lines of business is plastic injection, and they do the recycling bins, you know, those big, huge recycling bins at the end of your driveway, and they come and pick them up and dump them into the truck. They make those. And they said that they didn't want to be an unsustainable business. So what they did is they partnered with a local university, and Davenport University. They partnered with them, and they said, let's create a curriculum to teach students how to run a sustainable business, and we will hire those people into our offices to help us become more sustainable, and our goal is to become zero waste, which they have accomplished. Also related to talent pipeline, they're hiring returning citizens, so addressing the crime. They are bringing folks in that have had a criminal record. They're doing their proper diligence, though, not to bring on any severe criminal, you know, somebody murdered somebody or anything horrible. They're staying away from that, obviously. But they're bringing on returning citizens. They're training them and making them part of their culture. And they make sure that nobody on their team knows who these folks are. And according to their CEO, that some of their best, most responsible employees are some of these returning citizens. They also have a welfare to career program where they are bringing homeless and training them and getting them off of welfare and helping them transition to a paying job and a sustainable income. And they're just a really interesting company. And we're just so proud that they're part of the Best and Brightest family. And I always like to end on a good note and show you what companies are capable of. So with that, Jan, I'm going to throw it back to you. Are there any final questions or needs from anybody attending our webinar today?
The story about Cascade Engineering is fantastic. What a role model for companies across the country. Isn't that true?
Oh, yeah, it's wonderful.
I have a question about people and their pay and anticipating they don't know what it is. Do you think that comes from we're always used to the old-fashioned 3% a year across the board, no matter who you are or what your performance is?
Well, that's a good question. We can speculate on this. There's a lot of reasons why perhaps people don't understand how wonderfully they're being compensated. One, HR team and C-suite are trained not to talk about it. So that's problem number one. I know a lot of companies now are showing their full compensation value. Many companies, the employees still don't know, especially after the ACA, that perhaps their salary's here, but there's $25,000 a year going towards their family insurance. And this is how much we're paying for your disability insurance, and this is how much we're paying for your life insurance. I think there's a misnomer between how much goes into HR operations overall and what they think they're getting. So I really truly think it's a lack of transparency, a lack of communication. Other issues around that would be it goes years and years and years back, is what you don't know, you assume the worst. It's just human nature. So if they're not being told anything, they think they're at the lowest bottom of the pay scale. The larger companies are a little bit better because people know the salary ranges in the different levels of the operations, but some of the smaller businesses could really step it up in communicating there. These are companies, almost 40% of them are paying above market. But yet, when we survey their employees, they think that they're paid just like everyone else is.